Good morning and welcome to another Ignite Purpose devotional. This morning I wanted to continue to talk about what it means to recline, sit back, feel Jesus with your heart and not just think about Jesus with your head, to engage people by asking more questions and meeting people where they're at. This story that I'm about to share with you was part of the foundation of this trend of thinking and messages that I've been sharing lately. It started when I worked with a military ministry called Mighty Oaks. They were a ministry that worked with combat veterans that struggled with PTS, and they purposely took off the letter D, and they were able to take these guys through a program of only 6 days. And on the third day, they actually introduced them to Christ, and thousands of guys were being set free from prescription drugs, from therapy, all because they met Jesus. So I spent 4 years working with them, and I would do everything from help write books to handle the website to communication and even fundraising for the ministry. And inevitably, I would share about the ministry without even thinking about where the conversation might go. Many people are intrigued by military stories and certainly blessed by the military men that give their lives to protect our lives. So when I talk about Mighty Oaks, most people will lean in. I would sit at any table and bring up the ministry and start talking about the success and the blessing that the ministry has been to so many. Inevitably, someone would stop in the middle of the conversation and ask me the question. And the question always was, how does this work? How do these guys get set free after sometimes years on prescription drugs? And at that moment, in those conversations, I realized that it was time for me to share Jesus. And quite honestly, I backed myself into that corner because I didn't go into the conversation with the intention of sharing my faith or sharing about Jesus. But in fact, they would always ask me the question, why? And I would be forced to share. The magic of the program was that they were introduced to Jesus on the third day and that they accepted him, and most guys by the end of the week were getting baptized. So that was the turning point for every conversation. I would have to share that the truth, that the turning point for these guys was meeting Jesus on the third day. And you would think that people would be turned off by that. They would turn off the conversation, they would turn the other way and walk away. But in fact, no one ever did that. The worst I ever got was, oh, that's interesting, and the conversation ended. But no one ever got offended. It was amazing that they pressed in even further. A lot of times they would ask more questions, and they were no longer offended by Jesus. They were actually intrigued by Jesus because there was a practical action that they could actually get their hearts and heads wrapped around. So I just use that example as an example of leaning back, not pressing in. I never had an agenda with those conversations, but inevitably the conversations always ended up talking about faith and about Jesus. So this week, the challenge is share Jesus in a way that makes sense to you, that you can back your way into a corner to share him. Ask more questions, lean back, share tangible stories that make a tangible difference in your life, in those lives of the people that you interact with and have influence over. People will engage, they will lean in, especially when they don't feel like they're a project that you're focusing on to try to get them someplace. So I hope this helps. I hope it's encouraging. Have a blessed week. Lean back, tell stories, engage people, and meet them where they're at.